Okay, ma'am.
And Shara?
Okay, ma'am.
Right. I don't know whether anybody else would come. Doesn't matter, let's start. Right? Okay, so I'm going to share the screen on what we discussed yesterday, of course. Yeah. Right. So still the memory is new. Therefore, I think Tarani, you remember what we discussed yesterday.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
ma'am.
and Shara, I hope you would follow the recordings and right, update on what we have done so far. Of course, I have started the next lesson. Yesterday, I started the next lesson, and actually we are halfway through it. And today we are logical processes. Actually, before coming up to this section, from what we discussed yesterday, if I just brief it, we have been talking about phonemes, right? What is a phoneme? If I ask that question, you should have an idea to answer with examples. So what is a phoneme and what are allophones? What are the differences between a phoneme and its allophones? So these are the things which we discussed yesterday, as well as phonemic rules. Okay, right. And now today I'm moving on to the next sections of the same lesson, starting with phonological processes. So here, by phonological processes, we mean the processes, right? Or the processes where the sound changes are taking place. Now, you know, phonological, the word phonological has to do with sounds. Phonology, phonetics and phonology are dealing with the sounds. So phonological processes means a kind of process or processes where a particular sound is undergoing changes. Okay, now if you look at these lines I have taken directly from the module. So when you read the module, you might find the very lines, the same lines. Phonological processes are the general processes of phonological change, right? Phonological change, that means simply to understand sound changes that are involved in allophonic variation, Now, we have already discussed about allophones and allophonic variations. So as you know, then a phoneme can have more than one allophone, its own allophone, more than one allophone. So depending on the environment, right? Now, of course, we talked yesterday, allophones are decided by how we are using the particular phoneme. I hope you still remember the phoneme per. Right? I was using per in the initial position of a word, in the middle position of a word, as well as in the end position of a word. So depending on where I am using per, the way I pronounce it, the way I produce it changes. So if I use per in the initial position, like pen, right? Per is stressed. And actually, rather than stressed, beyond that, we can identify per is aspirated. Per is aspirated because we produce a small puff of air with per. Pen. Of course, this may not be that much familiar to the Sri Lankan English pronunciations, right? To the Sri Lankan English speakers, but it's there among the native English speakers. Okay, so that is aspirated per, if it occurs in the initial position. But if per occurs in the middle position, which means like in the words like apple, we don't aspirate it, right? That is non-aspirated per. Non-aspirated, and we don't stress it also. And if it occurs in the end position, still another different type of pronunciation. There, of course, we pronounce, of course, the speaker pronounces the phoneme, but the listener does not hear it properly. So phonologically, we say per in the end position is not realized. It's not realized. So it's like per in map. So MAP, when I say map, of course, I know that I pronounce the sound per, but you don't hear it very clearly. Okay, so it is not realized. So likewise, the same phoneme is pronounced in several different ways. Several different ways depending on where we use it, depending on the environment or depending on the position. The word initial, word middle, medial, or word final position. Right? So likewise, we can have so many variations among the one phoneme. So we call them allophones. And now here under phonological process, we are going to talk about how a particular allophone, okay, how a particular sound changes to an allophone, okay, to an allophone, depending on how we use it in a particular environment. So that is what is happening in the discussion of phonological processes. And these processes apply to classes of sounds that share one or more features. Right now, we will have a look at some examples. Now, in your module, you can find a lot of examples, right? Actually, there's a long list of examples, but I don't discuss all these. Instead, I have taken one or two examples to the slides. That's all. So because I just want to make this thing familiar to you so that you can read the rest of the examples available in the module and understand on your own. Okay, so just take this as a guide. Well, now see what's happening here. This first bullet point is one phonological process. What's happening there? All consonants are labialized before rounded vowels. Okay, now you should understand what you mean by labialized and what you mean by rounded vowels. If you don't have any idea about the meanings of these words, you might find it a bit more difficult to understand the nature of this process. Okay, so what do you think about these two words? Okay, rounded vowels, you know, right? Rounded vowels means the vowels which we produce by rounding our lips. Rounding our lips. So all the vowels are not like that, no? Right? Only a limited number of vowels are rounded, lip rounded vowels. Like oo, o, these vowels. So they are rounded vowels. Okay. And what do you mean by labialized then? Labio has to do with the lips, right? That means lips. So labialized means round in the lips. We have two, upper lip and the lower lip. So when we say consonants are labialized, what we mean here, we produce a particular consonant by rounding both lips. Labialized means that. Now understand the meaning of this sentence. All consonants are labialized before rounded vowels. So what is the meaning? Whatever the consonant, right? All consonant means whatever the consonant will become a labialized consonant if it is used in front of a rounded vowel. Before rounded vowels means that if it occurs in front of or before a rounded vowels, any consonant will become labialized. So we produce that consonant if it occurs in front of a rounded vowel by rounding our lips. I hope the sentence is clear to you. The meaning of this line is clear to you. So this is how we represent this idea. This is the phonological rule. Now, the one I'm circling, right? This is the phonological rule that means this statement. So C stands for a consonant. Okay. And this, what do you mean by C along with this small symbol, this symbol? Any idea? Now, earlier, actually, I was showing you the diacritic marks. I asked you, it's better if you can keep in your mind at least some of these diacritic marks, thinking about what they mean, right? So do you have any idea? Of course, you can get the idea from the note below, right? This C with this symbol means labialized consonant. Okay, labialized consonant in front of this symbol. Okay, this is the symbol that marks the position of the consonant in front of, right? Rounded vowels. Now, is this rule clear to you? Rule in the sense these symbols and how they have been used. So you can consider this circled one as one phonological rule. So if you look at this phonological rule, when you look at this phonological rule, you need to understand what it means. So a consonant becomes labialized consonant in front of rounded vowel. That's the idea. Okay, Tharani, clear?
Yeah, ma'am, but I couldn't read this part, ma'am, so I have to go through it again. Anyway.
Okay, it's all right.
I
And
will
if
try
at
to
the
get it.
moment, yeah, if you get the things clear at the moment, that would be fine now, because now you don't have to go back to the module, right? You can't read it now. You just listen, and
Okay.
if the things are clear to you, that's enough for the moment.
Okay, ma'am. Right.
And there's a note also. C, now C means the consonant includes stops, fricatives, affricates, nasals, and liquids. Now, there are stop consonants. Within brackets, you have the examples for stop consonants. They have been underlined. Okay. Like p, b, t, d, k, g. All these are stop consonants. And also fricatives like th, f, w, s, z, sh. Right. These are fricatives. They are also consonants, and affricates like ch, j. There are two affricates, ch and j. Right. And nasals like n, m, and liquids l. There are two, of course. L is the most prominent liquid, and r is also considered to be a liquid. So r. So all these categories, stops, fricatives, affricates, nasals, liquids, they are what we mean by consonants here. Okay, so all these things, what will happen according to this phonological rule, will become labialized if any one of these consonants are used in front of a rounded vowel. So rounded vowels means the vowels like U and O. So both tense and lax vowels of U and O, which means U, O, right? Short and long, U and O. So in front of these, they become labialized. So this is one phonological rule among many. Okay, and right. So there's another phonological rule I have taken to discuss. Alveolar sounds are dentalized before a dental. Okay, now this is another thing. Now, by now, hope you know about what alveolar sounds. Alveolar consonants, there's another category called, according to place of articulation, alveolar consonants. So alveolar consonants, they become dentalized before a dental sound. Normally, now alveolar consonants are called alveolar consonants because we produce them at the alveolar ridge. Okay, alveolar ridge, I hope you know the place. Alveolar ridge is the place soon after the upper teeth. Soon after the upper teeth, that area is the alveolar ridge. So alveolar consonants are produced when we touch this alveolar ridge with the tip of our tongue. Like s, l, n, th, d, etc. Third are alveolar sounds according to the British pronunciation, right? Okay, so they are alveolar, but the thing is now, one phonological change that can happen to these alveolar sounds is this. What is that? These alveolar sounds, these ones, which I'm underlining, right? They become dentalized. Now, dentalized, you can understand the meaning of the word. They become, dentalized means they become dental sounds. So what is the nature of dental consonants? Dental consonants are the consonants which we produce by touching the upper teeth, not the alveolar ridge, okay? By touching the upper teeth with our tongue, tip of the tongue. So they are the dental consonants. So the thing is now, these alveolar consonants become dental consonants in one particular environment. What is the environment? When they occur before a dental sound. Before a dental sound. Now we have two dental consonants only. Only two dental consonants among these 22 consonants. They are the and the. So you need to be clear why they are dental. When we produce the and the, our teeth and mostly the blade of the tongue rises and touches the upper teeth. The. Like when you say there, right? Thick, thin, there, them. In all these words, the initial sound, when we say the first sound, we touch the upper teeth with the tip of the tongue. So that is why they are called dental sounds. But the incident now is that these alveolar sounds, they also become dental when they occur. They become these dental sounds when they occur in front of dental consonants. So either in front of the or in front of the. If we have s, t, d, n, l, they become dental, which means then in front of the or the, if we happen to produce s, t, d, n, or l, they will not be alveolar. We produce even these sounds by touching the upper teeth. That is what you mean by dentalized. They are also produced by touching the, not by touching the alveolar ridge, but by touching the upper teeth with the tip of the tongue. So this is the symbol, of course. This is the symbol of dentalized s. And that is one allophone of s. Okay. Now you just think about s. This is the phoneme. And if you think about the characteristics of this you know, that is an alveolar sound. Because normally when we produce like sick, see, so, in all these words, we touch the alveolar ridge with the tip of the tongue. So by origin, is alveolar, right? But what can happen is that when we use this in front of a dental consonant like the or the, this becomes what? Dentalized indicated by this diacritic mark. And that is one allophone of the phoneme s. Now this is the phoneme, right? This is the phoneme. And what is this then? This is the allophone. Okay, one allophone of the phoneme s. So how do we get this allophone? How is this allophone created? Because of the environment. And in the environment, we use, we have dental consonants after the s. So if the s occurs in front of dental consonant, this phoneme is used as a dentalized sir, which is an allophone. So there are examples. You can easily understand this incident with these examples. Sixth. Now you just, you don't have to switch on the mic, of course. You just pronounce this word sixth. Six, of course, this is written in using Roman spellings, but you can understand the sounds here, right?
Yeah.
We have sir, e. How do you pronounce X? I have written the letter X, but it is pronounced like this.
Sixth.
Okay, sixth. And third sound, this is the third sound. Okay, I have written the word in phonetic script here. Okay, so now when you look at these sounds, just pay attention to this sound. Sixth. Usually, normally, this is alveolar. That is the phoneme, right? Usually it is alveolar. But in this word, you just pronounce this word and say how your tongue behaves. When you say the word sixth, okay, following word is a dental sound, the sound. When you produce particularly this consonant, where is your tongue? Is it touching the alveolar ridge or is it touching the upper teeth?
Six. Yeah. Six. Teeth?
Yes.
Yeah.
It touches the upper teeth.
Yeah.
That is what we mean by this line, right? Alveolar, sir is an alveolar sound, but it becomes dentalized when it occurs in front of a dental consonant because th is a dental consonant. Th is a dental consonant. And this is the dentalized process. Alveolar sound becoming dental because it is used in front of a dental consonant. So six, sir is only one example, right? Only one example. And you have so many examples here. Now there's another word, eight. Eight. Yeah. In eighth. And nine, tenth. Tenth. Now in all these words, you can find the final consonant is the. That's the dental. No, there's no the, right? Final consonant is the. So look at the consonant before the final consonant. In most examples, it has been underlined, right? Here, 9, 10th, and L in wealth, and D in width. Yes, all these are phonemes, right? All these are phonemes that are alveolar. But when they are used in these particular environments in front of dental consonants, they become dental sounds. So dentalized, then we have dentalized, 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 and dentalized. So these dentalized sounds are the allophones of the phoneme, the relevant phoneme. Okay, so this is how we can understand phonological roles. Of course, as I told to you, phonological processes means this is the process actually. The process has been given using symbols here. Right? This is the phonological process that has been given as the phonological rule. So that is a rule. Wherever this occurs, it happens like this. Rule is, you can understand the meaning of the word rule, no? It's a nitya. Okay, so wherever we use alveolar consonants like this in front of a dental consonant, they become dentalized. That's the rule. So phonological process means that, the same thing. Phonological process, in brief, we can understand here the particular changes that are happening to the sounds, how the sounds are changing because of the influence of the environment. Now these alveolar sounds become dentalized because of the influence made by the following dental consonant. So the particular sound changes that are happening due to the influence of the environment. That is what we mean by phonological processes. And we have developed these phonological processes into phonological rules. And that is represented with symbols like this. Okay, and these examples will help you understand clearly how these phonological processes take place. Okay, now actually here I have used only 2 examples for phonological rules, and there are many more as I told to you. So that's why I just have given here, refer to page number 56 to 58 in the module. In your module, you can find further examples for these phonological rules in these pages. Of course, you may know these pages. I should not tell, but I just thought of making a reference to the page numbers here so that you can, of course, refer to the relevant place. Because discussing only 2 examples may not be enough for you to fully understand about phonological rules. No? So please read the rest of the examples on your own. I think now you can understand how they have written the phonological rules using symbols like this. Okay, right. Okay, then, well, so as I told, there are so many phonological rules, and after that, there's a small discussion, of course, regarding phonotactics, right? Phonotactics. Yesterday I was talking about this. I told now this is quite common area in phonology. Okay. But may not be very common because some learners or some students may not have found this very often. But as linguistic students, you should have some idea about what is phonotactics, what kind of meaning is there, what's happening there. So therefore here I'll be giving you a brief introduction with some limited number of examples to phonotactics. So it's really simple thing, okay? There are no huge rules or nothing like that. It's a simple idea. Phonotactics are the constraints, right? You can take it as constraints on positions and sequences of sounds in a language. So you may have some idea regarding the meaning of the word constraints. What do you mean by constraints? Kind of restrictions, limitations. That is the meaning of the word constraints, no? Okay, so constraints on positions and sequences of sounds. So in a language, right? So in some, in any language, we can find these constraints. So what is happening here is that in a given language, in a particular language, some particular way of using sounds is prohibited or restricted, or we don't see, of course. To tell in simple languages, in simple language, what I can say is that some particular sequences or ordering of sounds may not be available in certain languages. And this is not common, that is language specific. What is available in one language may not be available in another language. So that's why here I have written phonotactics are always language specific. That is, combinations of certain sounds may be permitted in another language which are not permitted in English. For example, this combination. Now, what do you think about per and n? Now, these are 2 consonants, right? So you may have some idea regarding consonant clusters. Consonant clusters means 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 consonants occur at a stretch without having any vowel in the middle. You know, cluster is pokura, okay? So consonant cluster, 2, 3 or even 4 consonants occurring at a stretch without having any vowel in between or in the middle. So here you have a cluster, consonant cluster, right? But the thing is, this sort of consonant cluster is not available in the English language. Do you find any word, okay? Do you find any English word beginning with this consonant cluster? Have you ever seen? No.
No.
No, not available. But the thing is, this kind of consonant cluster may be available at the beginning of a word in some other language.
Okay.
Of course, these two sounds can occur together in some other language, but not in English. So phonotactics means that. That means certain combinations of sounds are not allowed or not permitted, or simply to say, are not available in some languages. So that is the idea in this line, constraints. Phonotactics are the constraints on positions and sequences of sounds in a language, right? So you have some examples from English, I think. Yeah, from English language. Some constraints on the positions of sounds in English. So they are called positional constraints. Positional constraints, you will understand the word when we just look at the examples. Now look at the first one. Here we are talking about positional constraints, which means not consonant clusters, right? We are talking about single consonants. And in English language, we find certain consonants not occurring at the beginning of words. Certain consonants are not available at the very beginning of words. Ng is one such consonant. Ng. Are you familiar with this sound? Ng.
No.
You can find it in these words, right? In when you say ink, right? Not the beginning of the word, somewhere in the middle, somewhere in the middle of the word.
Yeah, ma'am.
Ink, ng sound. Actually, you produce it by touching the velum. Velum means your soft palate with the back of the tongue. Your back of the tongue rises and touches your soft palate. Ink, ng. When you say ng, right? That is not n, okay? Alveolar n is different. That is different. So there's another word, nothing. The last part of the word, latter part of the word, nothing. When you say nothing,
Nothing.
it ends, the word ends with ng sound.
Nothing.
So you can find ng occurs in the middle position like in ink, and also it occurs in the end position like in nothing. Okay, now if you want some examples, some more examples, like what in Sinhala, of course, you know Sinhala Tarani, right?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. What is the word for lion in Sinhala?
Lion to කියන්නේ අපි මේ සිංහයා.
Singhaya. So when you say Singhaya, right?
සිංහයා.
Now when we write Singhaya, we use the letter bindu, ne?
බින්දුව.
Okay? Yeah, not alnayana. Alnayana me, we write bindu. But how do we pronounce it? Do we say Sinhaya? No, we say Singhaya. Singhaya. Nga. So that nga sound comes in the middle of the word. That is the sound we are talking here. Okay, right. So the phonotactics or the positional constraint is this, that nga is never word initial, which means nga never occurs at the initial position of a word. It is word medial. Word medial means middle position of the word, like ink. It can occur only after a stressed vowel, as in anger. Now, ink is one example, and there's another situation where ng occurs word medially after a stress vowel. Now, in this example, anger, right? Yeah, ng sound occurs somewhere here, anger, and it is followed by g as well as stressed vowel, anger, 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 g. Actually, the vowel is stressed. So likewise, ng occurs in the middle of the word. That's the point. It never occurs at the beginning. So that is one example for positional constraints when we talk about phonotactics. Okay, right. And there's another example. What is this? Je. Right? Of course, you must be familiar with the pronunciation of this word. Now, this word,
Pleasure.
the latter
Pleasure.
part of course,
Pleasure.
be pleasure, pleasure,
Yeah.
right? It is je, not
Je.
sh, pleasure, right?
Pleasure.
So that is the sound. So this je is very restricted word initially, restricted word, just like okay, just like this is also not available at the initial position of the word, occurring only in French words such as gendrum. Of course, I'm not 100% sure of my pronunciation of this French word, but this is there in French. That is why I told you about language specific, okay? Phonotactics are language specific because some combinations or some particular consonants that occur at the beginning of one language cannot occur at the beginning of another language. So this je is okay in French. Word initial je is permitted in French, but in English, it is restricted word initially. Instead, in English, we find it word medially, like pleasure, and fairly rare, like rogue, word finally. Okay, now this is medially because pleasure. After j sound, we have a vowel also, right? We have a vowel. That is why we say medially. And rarely, word finally in English. But again, in French words, we have je at the end position also. So French and English are quite different in this sense, in when we think about the usage of je sound. Okay, right. So I'm not going to pronounce, of course, these French words, thinking that I might if I do any mispronunciation, it's not good. So instead, you need to take the point here, get the idea, right? So these are two examples of phonotactics in relation to English language, particularly paying attention to the positional constraint. So we can't use ng or je in the initial position of words in English language. Okay. But when you think about je, the word initial and word final positions are okay in French language, although it's not available in English, right? Okay, so these are two examples. And we have more examples here, right? So we are going to talk about now consonant clusters. In English, we find that initial consonant clusters are much more restricted than final consonant clusters. In English, initial consonant clusters are quite more restricted, more limited than the final consonant clusters. So in initial position, the phonotactics of English do not allow the following sequences. So you can find them like this. Yeah. So what is the idea here? Now these are initial positions now, right? All the things I'm underlining are consonant clusters. These are consonant clusters, right? So the point says this sort of consonant clusters are not allowed in the initial position of words. In the initial position of words. Now per, ter, both are stops. Per is a stop consonant and ter is also stop consonant. So stop plus stop. This is the nature of this cluster. So this sort of cluster is not available at the beginning of English words. As well as this sort of cluster, like that is stop plus nasal. Na is a nasal, right? So this is also not, can't be seen in at the beginning of English words. And this is another example, na and per. Like nasal and a stop, also not available. And ter and sir, like it's, we never ever start any English word with these clusters, right? We don't have. So ter is a stop and sir is a fricative. And also fer and ter together. We don't have any word beginning with this kind of consonant cluster. So fer is a fricative and ter is a stop. So these kind of combinations, are not allowed at the word initially in English language. The only permitted syllable initial sequences are these things. Then, if these are not allowed, what are allowed in the English language? These are the things. Right? Permitted means we can see these sort of clusters. They are available. So you can have an idea by looking at this. Voiced or voiceless stop plus approximant. So what are the clusters then? These clusters, I'm circling them, per and l. This cluster is available because we have a word play. Yes. I mean, this word play, per and l are two consonants, and that's a cluster, consonant cluster. So that is available. So if you just have a look at the nature of this, the per is a voiceless stop, and l is an approximant. That is okay. And even per combination cluster is also okay. We have price, proud, prime. We have so many words beginning with this cluster. So per is again a voiceless stop and r is approximate. And what about l cluster? Is also there. We have bleed, bloom, right? You might be able to find more words. So b is voiced stop and l is approximate. And we have b, r, and k, l, and k, r. All these clusters are available word initially. That is one type of category. And we have another category, voiceless fricative and approximant. So fer is a fricative, you know, fer is a fricative consonant, and even sir, th, sh, these are fricatives. And l, r are approximates. So this voiceless fricative and approximant combination is also possible word initially in the English language, like fly, sled, tree, shrew. In all these things, I am not circling the clusters here. Hope you can find, right? They have been underlined. So you can find the consonant cluster word initially. And there's a third type of cluster, which is also okay. At the beginning of word, like sir plus voiceless stop. Sir plus, that means the consonant sir, and following that voiceless stop like per, ter, k. That we have spend, sting, scare. I mean, those words, we have sir and a voiceless stop following that. So that is also permitted. And there's another category, fourth category, sir plus nasal. Right? This is a mistake. Sir plus nasal, like snail, nasals are n and m. So sir can be followed by any nasal like n and m. That combination is also available at the beginning, word initial position of English words like snail, sneak, small, smile. All right. So these sort of combinations are permitted, whereas these sort of combinations are not permitted when we talk about the consonant clusters. phonotactics regarding consonant clusters in the English language. Does it make any sense in you?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay.
Can understand, yes.
Right. So the thing is, a lot of new words are coming in. And also now these types of consonants like stops, nasals, fricatives, approximants. So if you are not very much familiar and if you have forgotten them, you might take a little bit more time to understand, right? If you still, your memory is not very fresh with these words. So that is the problem. Otherwise, actually, there's nothing much, right? It's a simple idea. Simply, you need to keep in your mind phonotactics means limitations, restrictions, which we can see among the usage of some sounds, maybe among the clusters or single sounds. That is what you mean by phonotactics. So earlier I talked about the positional constraints, and here in this slide you can see the constraints regarding the clusters, initial consonant clusters. And there's another set of examples regarding final consonant clusters. So compared to the initial, now we are talking about the English language now. So compared to the initial consonant clusters, final consonant clusters don't have many restrictions. They are freer and more complex than initial clusters, containing up to even 4 consonants. And even 4 consonants can be there. So more restrictions are available in the consonant clusters that occur at the beginning of words. But at the end of the words, the clusters are not very much restricted. Right? Space does not permit an exhaustive listing. So these are the very words available in the module. But some possible combinations of 2 final consonants are these. Right? Some possible combinations. So I'm not going to explain line by line. By looking at this, you can understand actually this underlying consonant cluster. The relevant consonant cluster is underlying. The final cluster. So we have harp, harm, horse, hurl, help, helm, else. Right? In all these situations, you can find the final consonant cluster is underlying. And its nature, the type of the 2 consonants are given, right? Liquid and consonant. So here liquid means r sound, and consonant means p, m, s, l, p, m, s. Okay, right. And here bend, second list, bend, pins, tenth. So please follow the underlying consonant clusters, and their nature, their characteristics are given here in front. So nasal followed by obstruent. Obstruent is a kind of stop. Okay, stop. And also we have fricative plus stop combinations possible at the end of words. And stop plus fricative combinations are there. Fricative plus fricative combinations are there. Leaves, reeves, both are fricatives. And stop plus stop combinations like apt, ached, bobbed, etc. Okay, so this is the point. Final consonant clusters are, compared to the initial consonant clusters, freer and more complex than the initial clusters. Okay. So actually, this is the continuation of the previous example. Just the continuation of the previous example. So in the previous example, we were talking about the usage of consonant clusters. And in the previous slide, in this slide, we talked about the usage of particularly the initial consonant clusters. How the initial consonant clusters are restricted and permitted. And this talks about, in English language, how the final consonant clusters are used. Quite freer, right? Less restrictions. Okay, so these are about phonotactics, and I have to tell you the same thing here as well, which I have been repeating in the other sections. What's that? More examples are available in the module. So you have a lot of work when you study this module to when you get ready for the assessments or evaluations. You need to refer to the module for more information and for more examples. Okay, right then up to this, what do you think, Tarani? Of course, the thing is I am kept on talking and talking and talking. Sometimes I may be fast, but I have to be fast, right? Because there are fairly big amount, right? We have to cover somewhat considerable amount. So I am a little bit fast, thinking that you follow me. So am I correct in thinking so?
Yeah, ma'am. Much homeworks are there, so have to study your best. But
That
you have tried
background
to
work is
manage.
anyway there, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
So therefore, you need to, of course, synthesize all these things. That means you need to consider the lecture, you need to consider the module, and the rest, the other gaps you need to fill by Googling.
Ma'am,
You understand?
I just thinking, okay, how can I search in the Google about this?
No, the thing is this, you don't take it so serious. Okay, now let's say you don't, your knowledge or your understanding about phonotactics is not very clear, right? Let's say, for example, phonotactics, you don't get any, I mean, you have some idea, but that idea is not enough for you to be thorough with the section. So if you get that feeling, and if you still think that the lecture, recording or whatever given from the lecture does not help you very much, and also the module is also a little bit difficult to read and understand, then how are you going to fill that vacuum? You need to just browse some sites, right? Just give what is phonotactics. Even Wikipedia can help you, because now you are not browsing these sites to produce, of course, academic writing, no, with citations, nothing like that. You just want to get some more idea. For that, any site will help you. But be careful, right? Because if you read more and more and more, sometimes you might get confused if you go up to the areas which are not available in the module, as well as not available in our lecture discussions.
Yeah, true.
Because definitely there are areas like that, because now, you know, we can't discuss everything, right? We have a limitation. So be careful when you do your further reading. So always just, you can read further, no issue, okay? That has to be there. But always keep an idea in your mind regarding your limitation. What is expected from you to get this certificate, to get this qualification, this degree qualification, what is expected from you? Always have that idea in the mind when you read. Otherwise, if you, I mean, you will definitely find a lot more things. So if you try to understand all these things, and if you try to analyze everything you find, the life will be a little bit difficult for you. Okay, so therefore, always be in the limitation of the requirements from you in this module. Okay, I'm not telling don't read further. I am telling read further, but always uh, read within the framework. Okay.
Yes.
So that is what I just I meant when I said Google. If you don't find anything to be clear enough, just put it what is phonotactics, what is a consonant cluster, what are phonological rules, likewise. Okay, you will get very basic ideas. That will be enough, I think, as supplements for you to understand the module. Okay, right. Well then, Shara, I don't know whether you have any issue or a problem.
I have a little confusion, ma'am.
I know that.
say I
Yeah.
don't know whether I am in a correct lecture or not.
Really? That's why you just on and off kind of thing happened.
No,
You
I had
appeared and disappeared. Yeah.
no, I
So
had
now,
a connection also with that.
okay. So finally, you have found the correct lecture. Do you think so?
I don't know. I have to talk with
My
my
goodness.
university.
Right. Now, anyway, so just I hope you will clarify. Anyway, if you are one of this batch, definitely we will have to cover this module, right?
Yes,
Am I correct?
yes, yes.
So
The thing is,
better
even get previous lectures also. I don't
you
know.
will get. I also don't know about that part. Okay. Sometimes Tarani might help giving some idea regarding the previous recordings or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, you just talk to the office, right?
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
If you
Continue.
are a student from this batch, I think this module is relevant to you. Only that I am aware, so you better listen, right, and understand. Okay, that's what I have to tell. Of course, this is only a continuation of what we started yesterday, Shara. So your confusion is natural. But the thing is, you need to catch up the things by listening and right, just keep it up. Okay,
ma'am.
then we have come to the end of one section. Okay, so far we have been dealing with the phonemes, allophones, and these rules regarding phonemic rules, phonological rules, and finally phonotactics. So we have come to the end of one subsection, and from this point onwards, we are moving on to another section, still in the same lesson, same major lesson, but this is another section, right? Quite interesting, huh? Of course, all are interesting. Don't you think so, Tarani, right? Oh, the topics are quite interesting as far as you understand and follow them. If not, really, they are not interesting, of course. Now, this suprasegmental feature is also kind of quite appealing and like you might find it quite interesting. And they are not that heavy, right? But still, there are rules to discuss. A lot of things are there, but this is different. Okay, now let me give you a basic introduction to suprasegmental features before I go into the slides available in the slide. Okay, suprasegmental features, of course, we call them suprasegmental phonemes as well. Phonemes or features, either word is okay. So suprasegmental is, the word is coming from segmental. Of course, as you know, supra is a prefix, no? Right? Suprasegmental is derived from the word segmental. And segmental is derived from the word segment. Segment. And you know the meaning of the word segment. That is an English word. What is segment?
Some part.
Yeah. Segment is a part. Yeah. It's a part or a section. Okay. Something like that, segment. And the segmental is an adjective. So we have segment, the word segmental from segment. And now we need to relate these terms to phonology, because that is our discussion of phonetics and phonology, these sounds. So we understand now in phonology, we have both these words, segmental phonemes as well as suprasegmental phonemes. Now, in this section, you have only segmental features as the topic. But by now, you already have learned about segmental phonemes. Although you didn't meet the term early, you have learned segmental phonemes. So let me tell you then, segmental phonemes are the phonemes that exist as segments, or phonemes that exist as parts, individual parts. They are called segmental phonemes. Now, can you give me one or two examples, if you have any idea, for segmental phonemes? Yeah. Are you thinking? Oh,
Yeah. Segment.
I'll give you 1, 2 examples, right?
Mhm.
The one I'm always taking, favorite example, of course, per.
Yeah.
Per is a segmental phoneme, and k another segmental phoneme, and a yet another segmental phoneme. Actually, what are these? Vowels and consonants, even diphthongs, semivowels. All these are segmental phonemes. And actually, why do we call them segmental? Because we always, now usually in the usual life, when we use a language to communicate, we combine these phonemes together, right? You don't find any human being uttering only one sound at a time, and in another time and next sound, nothing like that, right? We all are combining sounds together. But still, although we combine them, still they can be broken. This one word, one utterance can be divided into single sounds. Don't you think? Now, for example, just take pen. Pen is a combination of 3 phonemes, per, a, and n. Combination of 3 phonemes. But if we want, we can separate these 3 phonemes now, and one by one individual we can pronounce and show, okay, per, a, n, likewise. Why can we do so? Why? Because they can exist as individual sounds, individual parts. That is why they are called segmental phonemes. They can be identified as individual segments. Does it make any sense if I say like that about segmental phonemes? Okay, right. Now, in this module, of course, somewhere in the beginning, at the beginning, we have been talking about classification of sounds, vowels, consonants, diphthongs, semi-vowels. So actually, although you didn't use the word segmental phonemes, they are the segmental phonemes, right? Okay, so I am not going to talk about segmental phonemes here any further because our topic is suprasegmental features. But to understand suprasegmental features, you should know about segmental phonemes. No? That is why I was talking about it. Now here, suprasegmental features are totally different from these segmental phonemes, because they go beyond the level of segmentation. In other words, of course, I can say suprasegmental features do not exist as separate segments or as separate parts. They are not individual sounds like per, k, a, o, a. No, they are not like that. Instead, these suprasegmental features are applied to combination of sounds. Okay, to combination of sounds, like we can see suprasegmental features falling onto syllables or falling onto words, or maybe in utterances, long sentences. That is the nature of suprasegmental features, and that is why we have this prefix supra, right? Supra. Okay, did you get some basic idea regarding the difference between segmental and suprasegmental words? So you don't have to bother too much about the segmental phonemes because you already know, we have discussed them about vowels and consonants. But now here we are going to talk about the suprasegmental features, which are sometimes not very much familiar to you. Okay, right. So in your syllabus, of course, we need to deal with 2 types of suprasegmental features. There are more than 2, but you should know basically stress and intonation. These are the two suprasegmental features. Okay, so before that, you can just go through the beginning line, opening line. Suprasegmental features are those articulatory features which are superimposed over more than one segment, right? That is vowel or consonant. They include stress and intonation. So these are the two basic suprasegmental features. So as I told to you then, these suprasegmental features are superimposed or applied, or they fall over more than one segment. They fall over or they are applied to combinations of sounds. Right? That is why they are called suprasegmental. So we need to talk about stress and intonation a little bit further. And we are going to talk about stress first. Right. So there are a lot of information available in the slide, in this slide, as well as in the module. You have a lot of things. But basically, you need to have a rough idea at the very beginning regarding what stress is. Okay. Now I invite you to, we'll give you 1 or 2 minutes. Just go through this part, right? Which I marked here. Because you better have your own basic idea before we talk about it. Okay, right. Just go through. Okay. So you must have got some idea. So actually, what is stress? Can you just tell it in simple terms? I mean, one line, maybe enough. You have any idea?
Yeah, ma'am, that means when we pronounce a word, at least one letter we have to be stressed, like we have to read it in a heavy way.
Yeah, yeah, that is it. But not we have to. Okay, it happens. Okay, I mean, it automatically happens. So when we pronounce some words, almost all the words anyway, right? One syllable gets the stress, or we pronounce one syllable than the other syllables, okay, with a great force, with great effort. We call it great articulatory effort in using phonological terms. So that is what we mean by stress. And you have a lot of information in the paragraph, and that is why I asked you to read it on your own. So this some brief idea is there. Stress involves a rise in air pressure. Okay, a rise in air pressure. So when we produce certain, when we of course produce in the sense pronounce certain syllables, let's say there are 3 syllables in a word. Okay, there are 3 syllables in a word, for example, and first syllable we stress. It happens, right? We stress the first syllable. Then what do you mean by stressing the first syllable? Our first syllable, the first syllable of our word is much more heavier than the other 2 syllables. And the listener hears it more prominently. We give a weight to the first syllable. Then how do we give a weight? By having an extra effort to produce or to pronounce that syllable. That is what you mean by stressing. Okay, stressing. That is what you mean by phonological stress. Otherwise, the word stress has a lot more other meanings in other different contexts. But here, phonological stress means pronouncing a syllable or producing a syllable with great articulatory effort. So when we have this great articulatory effort, what can happen inside us? It is the rise in air pressure, an increase in the activity of the respiratory muscle, forces more air out of the lungs during the articulation, right? And there also may also be an increase in the activity of the lungs, resulting in higher pitch. So usually our stress syllable is higher in pitch. It is heard more loudly than the others. And in acoustic terms, of course, when we talk about the physical characteristics of the stress syllable, it is heard as long as the longest syllable among the other syllables, and also the louder syllable and of higher pitch. So these are the characteristics of stressed syllable. Okay, right, I'll give you one simple word. Let me write it. Okay, very simple word. So in this word, there are 2 syllables, right? I can divide the syllables like this. Export. Now, do you know about syllables? Can I have some idea from you? Anything? Or is the word syllable new to you? No idea.
No, ma'am, that word is you spoke earlier.
Yeah. Actually, syllable is a kind of sound unit. Okay. It's a, sorry, kind of sound unit where there is a vowel sound compulsorily. Okay. It's a sound unit. And usually there is a vowel sound. And with this vowel, there can be or cannot be consonants. Maybe only one consonant along with that vowel or 2 consonants in either side. But consonant, presence of the consonant is not important. It's not required. Okay, but vowel has to be there normally. Syllable is that kind of a sound unit. So if I give you a word and ask to identify the syllables there, you should go after the vowel sounds. If there is one vowel sound in the given word, then how many syllables do you think can be there? If there is only one vowel sound. Mostly only one syllable.
One syllable.
Mostly. Okay, right. So now this word export. In this word, we have 2 syllables. I didn't write it in phonetic script, but when you pronounce this, you can find first syllable is X. X. Yeah, A. The vowel A is available, right? X. So 1 syllable. And the next part of the word is port. Port. There also we have 1 vowel sound along with so many other consonants. So that is the second syllable. Right. Okay. So when we talk about this, the pronunciation of this word, there are 2 syllables and we naturally pronounce, okay? We don't think and do this. It happens naturally. 1 syllable is stressed than the other syllable. What do you think? Don't mechanically pronounce this word, then you will be misguided. Simply pronounce naturally, simply, because this is a word you already know. So simply pronounce this once only and tell me, is it the first syllable or the second syllable that is stressed?
First syllable.
First
Second
syllable.
one?
The thing is this, if you want, you can stress the first syllable.
Oh.
And if another person wants, he or she can stress the second syllable. That is there, right? But what is the general way, general pattern? Generally, you just think that you are telling this word when you are talking with your friends, right? Then which part is stressed? You produce, you have an effort, extra effort. You
Second one,
push.
I guess.
Yes, which syllable? That is the second syllable, right? This one. This is how we put the stress mark. So, likewise, in whatever word given, first thing is you should be able to identify the syllables available. How many syllables are there and what are they, right? And after that, you should be able to identify which syllable receives the stress. Like what we did in the export, right? How do we say the word? Do you say export or export?
Export.
Export. Okay, just listen carefully. Export, export.
Second one.
Please say export, export. Po is much more prominent, right? It has a weight than X. Okay, that is the general way. But as I told you, if you want, you can stress the first one. That is your personal matter. But we need to think always about the general way, right? And so here you have some more information about stress. Stress is a meaningful feature of speech in respect to both words and phrases in English. Now, when you talk about stress, there are so many levels there, right? Level 1, 2, 3. Because all the time we do not stress a syllable in the same way. Sometimes we strongly stress a syllable. Sometimes we do not stress that strongly. Okay. And in some other situations, we never stress. So say, like that, you have primary level, right? Primary stress, secondary stress, and unstressed. Primary stress means the stress which is strongly put to a syllable. And this is the mark by an acute accent, right? This is the mark of the primary syllable. And this is the mark of the secondary syllable. Sorry, secondary stress, right? Grave accent. And the mark of that represents the unstressed syllable is this. So if you can find any mark like this atop a syllable, what you should understand, that syllable is not stressed. That's the point. Okay. Now go through these examples. Computation. If you say computation in isolation or at the end of a sentence, the ter syllable, where is ter? This one. Syllable will carry the strong stress. But the con syllable, con this one, will also carry a seemingly weaker stress. What is actually happening here is superimposition of an intonation pattern. Okay, now intonation, we didn't discuss it so far. Yes. So therefore, don't panic now. But this stress and intonation also all are interlinked, right? So we can understand here the use of intonation pattern called a tonic accent onto a last stress syllable. Well, we just don't bother too much about this line. So we say that ta carries primary stress and com carries secondary stress. Thus, computation, right? Computation. Now, okay, simply you produce like what I asked you to do with export, right? Simply produce the word computation. You would find the syllable te is heavier than the other syllables. We have more effort in articulatory effort, right? Not any other physical effort, I mean. Articulatory effort when we produce te. So, we say this te receives the primary stress. Mark is this. And also the first syllable come, right? It is also stressed to some extent, but not up to the extent of ta. But it is also producing kind of stress. So we call that secondary stress as marked in this way, secondary stress. Okay, but secondary stress sometimes it's difficult to hear, but generally it will be separated by at least one syllable. Okay, now usually stress is not that simple. It appears in several different ways, like what you can see on screen here, level 1, 2, 3. Strongest stress is the primary stress, and the next strong stress is the secondary stress, and no stress means unstressed. So when a word is given to you, you should be able to identify the syllable that receives the primary stress, first thing. And according to the question, if the question asks you to mark the secondary stress also, then you need to find the next, the syllable which receives the next stress, the little bit less strong stress. So that is what you mean by primary and secondary stress patterns. All right. I am moving on to the next one. So now, okay, when you think about this stress, now don't you have a problem? Now, how to find out which syllable is receiving the stress and which syllable is not receiving the stress? You didn't get that question or doubt in your mind?
I really got it, but
Yeah.
you told no that okay that it's depend on the person. He can stress the way he.
Yeah. That's right. But the thing is, Tarani, maybe Tarani who talked, right? I didn't see the name. Yeah, it is there. But at the same time, I highlighted, although different people can stress in different ways, still there is a general way. Okay, general way that is followed by the native English speakers. Now, I am not asking you to imitate those fellows. But the thing is, now we are learning a language which is not ours.
Yes.
It is not our mother tongue. So we should do some justice to that, right? We can't distort another language, no? I mean, distort in the sense not from the grammar aspect, but even by pronunciation or by using the accent, we should not change the sound patterns of any other language. So we need to adhere. We should try our level best to adhere to these stress patterns, being second language learners of English. If we were native speakers of English, of course, no problem. From the birth itself, we get these, we acquire these patterns. But in our case, it is not so 100%. So we need to learn. Okay, so that is why I told you, when a word is given to you, you should know which syllable receives the stress. If still there is a possibility that you can stress whatever syllable you like, but that may not be the general pattern. That may not be the common pattern used by the native speaker. So therefore, we need to have some idea regarding how the native English speakers are using these stress and intonation patterns. Okay, so now that's a problem, no? Because these things are not coming now. We don't take these things from our childhood, very childhood, right? There are the people like that, but majority of the non-native English speakers, these things are not coming from their birth. So later, at a later stage in their life, they learn these things. So there will be a problem definitely. Then how do we know? Because there are so many words in the English vocabulary, right? We can't count them even, right? Endless words. So then how are we going to know which syllable, how many syllables are there in these words, and which syllable receives the primary stress, which syllable receives the secondary stress? How on earth are we going to keep all these things in our mind? I hope definitely you have that problem in your mind, right? Okay, so to solve that problem to some extent, we have some generalizations. Generalizations here, some common trends, or we can identify them to be rules. Okay, the general patterns where the stress is used in words. Some general patterns. So if you can keep these patterns in your mind, it'll be quite easy for you to identify where the stress is when a word is given to you. Right, now let's see. Stress can distinguish different parts of speech. So this is one idea. One idea. I'm sorry, my lines are not straight. Stress can distinguish different parts of speech, as in the corresponding sets of nouns with initial stress and verbs with final stress. So what's the idea? Now you have a word, produce. Okay. You have produce. P-R-O-D-U-C-E. And the same word can be used as a noun as well as a verb. But the problem is same spellings. But then where do they differ? Just think about the speaking aspect, right? Not the written aspect, because the stress and intonations occur only in the pronunciation, not in writing. So when we say produce, by the way we produce the word, the listener can understand whether we are talking about a noun or a verb. Because nouns, this is the general rule, okay? In nouns, we stress the first syllable. That is what I mean by initial stress. First syllable is stressed in nouns. Whereas in verbs, what will happen? We stress the second, if it is a disyllabic noun, the disyllabic verb, a verb that has two syllables now, what will happen? We stress the second syllable. Or else we can in general say final syllable. So regarding nouns, we have initial stress. Regarding verbs, we have final stress. That's a common general pattern you can keep in your mind. So accordingly, how do you say the first set? Produce is a noun. Produce is a verb. Did you hear clearly the difference in pronunciation?
Yeah.
When you say the noun, your first part of the word, where the first syllable, initial syllable is there, is much more heavier than the second part. Produce. The articulatory effort is that, right? Produce. But when you say the same word in verb meaning, produce, the latter part, which means the second syllable, is much more heavier than the first syllable. So then the listener understands, okay, you are referring to the action or you are talking the verb. Okay. Now, similarly, now the stress marks are there. So you can find the syllable which is stressed. Address, address. Import, import. Insult, insult. Salt should be here. And survey, survey. Incline, incline. Export, export. Now, can you remember here? Earlier, I gave you the verb export. Based on the verb meaning, I told that the second syllable is stressed. But if you want to tell the same word as a noun in your sentence, then automatically it would be automatically, right? You don't have to think, of course. You are not thinking before you produce or pronounce a word. Okay, now I should put the stress to the first syllable. Now I should put the stress to the second syllable. Likewise, we are never planning like that. Okay, although we are non-native English speakers, even then we are not planning because most of these things are there, right? Because we are familiar to the English language to some extent. Being familiar means we have taken these things to us. Okay, so export. If you have the first syllable much more heavier than the second one, then you mean the noun. But if the second syllable is more heavier or stressed, then that is the verb. Okay. So this will help you. Of course, this point will help you have some idea regarding the general pattern of the use of stress among nouns and verbs. And there are some more ideas, of course, more information there about stress placement. Let's have a look at them also. Stress can distinguish a word from a phrase. Now, this is another idea. Okay. Stress can distinguish or it can differ. Stress can be used to differentiate a word from a phrase. A word has only one primary stress. Okay, one primary stress, because a word, if you just consider a single word, it can have one primary stress, one secondary stress. One single word may not have two primary stresses, nothing like that. Okay, as in the case of walk out. Okay, now walk out is single word, walk out. Though it may have both primary and secondary stress, okay, as in the case of hot dog. Okay, a phrase on the other hand has more than one stress, more than one stress, as in the case of to walk out. Now, do you follow the idea here? If we talk about one single word, there is only one primary stress. Sometimes the same word can have secondary stress as well. Okay, if you talk about the first example, walk out, of course, only one primary stress, walk out. And you can find the syllable that receives the primary stress. It's there. The mark is there, no? First syllable, walk out. But there are some words that have both primary and secondary stress, like hot dog, hot dog. Both types of stresses are there. But when you talk about phrases, now you can consider the same word as a phrase with a pause in the middle. Walk and out, you just separate walk and out to mean the action. Okay, to walk out, there in the first set here, you can find, right? You have two primary stress. For the first word, you stress, first syllable you stress, and second syllable also you stress. Like push over is a word, push over is a press. where a noun or a verb combines with an adverbial particle such as o, out. Okay, we have used such as in or out. We have used out here and over as a particle, as an adverbial particle. So then this whole thing becomes a phrase. And in this phrase, you have more than one primary stress. That is the simple idea you should get here. Okay, if you talk about a single word, there is only one primary stress. But if you think about a phrase, there is a possibility for us to have more than one primary stress. As you can see in these two examples, and in the module, you will find more examples. And similar thing, where an adjective combines with a noun to form either a single noun or a noun phrase. Now look at this. The word hot dog. Hot dog, if you take it as one word, you have the primary as well as secondary stress. But if you take hot dog as a phrase means you have a pause in the middle, right? Can you see in writing also there is a space? There are two words. Two words. So this is a phrase because there is hot can be considered as an adjective and dog is a noun that is modified by hot. If you take it like that, this becomes a phrase. Then each word, both words are what? Stressed. Because hot has only one syllable, it is stressed. And dog has again one syllable, it is also stressed. The similar example, blackboard. Blackboard. So black primary stress, board secondary stress, if you take it as one word. But if you use these two words separately, then blackboard, you give similar stress, similar primary stress to both words, black and board. Okay, right. Then, so that is about the adjective plus noun combinations. And when you talk about two nouns, noun-noun combinations, where two nouns combine to form either a single verb or a noun phrase, like this. Word is stone wall, black ball. But phrase, when you want to separate these two words to give in a phrase, then stone wall, black ball. Both words have their own primary stress. Okay. So this is another aspect of stress placement. Another aspect of stress placement, right? So remember, just a simple thing you need to take is this. Simple point is this. If you talk about the words, single word, there is only one primary stress. But if you think about a phrase or a sentence, then there can be syllables in words more than one primary stress. With more than one primary stress, as you can see in these examples. Okay, so you don't have to worry too much about these examples. You can think of your own examples just to understand this. You just think about one sentence and there are so many words, and each and every word, mostly content words, are stressed. Okay, right. Well, so there is, yeah.
Is that about phrasal verbs? Do we keep space when we write phrasal verbs?
Yes. Now this walk out, push over, you can consider them as phrasal verbs. They are phrasal verbs in the first set, I think, right? Yeah, because they are here given as phrases. So phrasal verbs are phrases now. So your point is correct. And in the second and third sets, of course, you have some other different phrases like adjective plus noun combinations and noun plus noun combinations. So whatever the phrase is, if there is a phrase, the argument here is inside the phrase, let's say there are 2 words or 3 words, then each word has its own primary stress. in the phrase level. But in the word level,
But
yeah.
can I know that when we write phrasal verbs, do we keep space between the two words? When we write phrasal verbs?
Yeah. Usually we separate the particle from the base form of the verb, right? Usually we separate the particle, the adverbial or the prepositional particle, out, over, like that. This adverbial or the prepositional particle is available now at the end of a phrasal verb. So usually it is written with a space. And also in pronunciation, it is pronounced after a slight pause from the base form, right? Walk out. That is why we say walk has its own primary stress and out has its own primary stress. Why you have phrasal verbs without any space in the middle?
Yes. Something like
For
get up.
example, get up, but we separate. Isn't that so?
Haircut.
Anyway, haircut is not a phrasal verb. That's a compound now. Because there is no verb.
Then what about wake up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, separate.
Ready.
Okay. Now, I think you are talking about phrasal verbs as well as compound words. We have compound nouns, compound verbs, compound adjectives. In such case, of course, Sasha, right? Some compound words are separated. Some compound words are not separated. There is no space in the middle. And there is another category of compound words where both the parts are hyphenated, right? There's a hyphen in the middle.
Yes.
So compound words can be written in all these three ways, with a hyphen, with space, or without space. That variation is there. But usually when you talk about the phrasal verbs, usually we separate the particle from the base form of the verb. Okay, right. Okay, then are you tired in listening? No. Parani? Yes, but how to say yes, right? Yeah, we don't have not much time left anyway. So we'll have a look at this as well. Now, this is also very important. Actually, all are important, but this is quite important and quite common in pronunciation. That is full and reduced versions of the same words. Okay, so this comes to our discussion of stress because now, okay, you should understand it like this. Any word, especially function words. Okay, I'll go again back. Now, you know there are two word classes, open word class and closed word class. So under the open word class, we have nouns, adjectives, adverbs, and verbs, open word class items. And under the closed word class, we have articles, prepositions, pronouns, auxiliary verbs, conjunctions, determiners. These are the closed word class items. No? Right. Okay, now pay attention to the closed word class items. Prepositions, pronouns, conjunctions, so and so, auxiliary verbs, etc. So all these words in pronunciation, okay, when we pronounce these closed word class words or items, there are two ways of doing that. One way is to pronounce the strong form. The other way is to pronounce the weak form. So strong form is realized as the full form, whereas weak form is the similar word is reduced form, weak form. So these closed word class words can be pronounced in either way, as full form or as reduced form. Okay. So when spoken in isolation or used contrastively, function words. So these function words are the words that come under closed word class, right, are pronounced with full vowels, but when they occur in a sentence, they are generally unstressed. Remember this. These function words. So these are the function words, the words that come under the closed word category. So in general, which means in our normal day-to-day use of language, in our colloquial use of language, casual speech, these function words or closed word class words are pronounced in their reduced versions or weak forms. In other words, they are not stressed. Okay? But the same words can be pronounced in their full forms or strong forms, especially when we tell them in isolation. Let's say that I want to tell and, okay, just say that I'm a teacher and I'm talking about the conjunctions. I'm teaching conjunctions to my students. And I want to talk about and. I am introducing and. Then how do I say? How should I say it to the students? And. That is the full form or the strong form. Now you can see it is written here in phonetic script. You can easily understand this, right? This table is available in the module. And. But the weak form means we do not stress it like and. We do not stress, we just say and. So don't confuse with this symbol, okay? Don't too much confuse. Actually, this symbol is supposed to be this one. This vowel sound. Do you have any idea about this vowel? In all these places where you find this symbol, you should realize it to be this vowel sound. This is called schwa, right? This is the vowel sound that appears at the beginning of admit, apply, address, a sound. This is not a long vowel sound. The long vowel sound is also there, but in weak forms, you find this vowel. So, and is the strong form, and weak form of the same word is an. So, I've got to make dinner and clean up. That is how we quickly tell this. I've got to make dinner and clean up. But I have got to make dinner and clean up is the slow speech. There and is pronounced in its strong form. But in everyday casual speech, it will be and is pronounced as an. Did you get the point? Is that clear? Yes. Tharani and Shara. Now there are so many words like that. Two, T-O-O-2 as well as T-O-2. So strong form is two. But the weak form, in quick speech, she went to New York. We don't say it like that in quick speech, no. She went to New York. She went to New York. To actually don't hear it even. That is what you mean by weak form or reduced form. So how do we unstress this two? By replacing u sound with schwa. To becomes t, and becomes an, and can becomes kan. At, as, could, then, you, had, would, are, them. Hope you heard clearly. Right. So you have supportive sentences. I mean, you can just pronounce these sentences quickly. You also do the same, right? You would be producing the weak forms when you quickly, in natural settings, when you tell these sentences. But if you tell the same sentences, these ones mechanically and very slowly, then what will be the form? Then it will be the strong form or the full form. So we say, now we were talking about stress now. So we say, in strong forms, we stress the vowel, right? In weak forms, we do not stress the vowel. Instead, we replace the strong vowel in the strong form by a weak vowel, which is short, with this one. Shall I have to mute you?
Sorry, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so did you get the idea here? Weak and strong difference. Now always remember this full form and weak forms are available only in the function words, which means the closed word class. And all the content words are usually strong. They are strong. Okay, right. So the most important point, strong forms are stressed, whereas weak forms are not stressed. Okay, right. So hope you have got some idea from this point as well. Well then, now when we talk about stress, of course, there are two types available. Two major types. One is word stress, the other one sentence stress. And so far we have been talking about word stress. That means how we can put the primary stress onto a particular syllable inside a word. That is discussed under word stress. And there's another second type, sentence stress. There, of course, we are talking about how we can put the stress onto a word among the other words in a sentence. Okay, so I do not want to. Of course, we will talk about this part in the next day. Otherwise, it will be a kind of overload issue. I mean, all at once, I don't want you to continuously listen to word stress and all these things, plus the phrasal level stress. But you have a small work here. Okay, very small work. And this question is not available in the module. So you have to take this. You can take a screenshot or maybe a photograph and see whether the question is clear to you. Mark the primary and secondary stress of the following words. So there are so many words here, and better if you can do this without getting the support from any dictionary, because most of the words are familiar to you. Even if you don't know the meanings of these words, you can just pronounce, and you may have a kind of familiarity regarding the pronunciation and accent. So identify the syllables, two syllables, one syllable which receives the primary stress, the other syllable which receives the secondary stress. If you think that finding secondary stress is not that convenient, okay, at least try to find the primary stress, which means you need to find the syllable that receives the primary stress. Now, is the work clear to you?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, you just take a screenshot of this, and we are going to meet in the next week, Wednesday, I think. Yeah. So Wednesday we will continue our discussion. We will go to the next lessons as well. So meanwhile, you just practice what we have learned today with this exercise. Okay, right. So what about you, Shara? Have you taken a photo or
Yes,
something?
I've got a screenshot.
Okay, fine. So we have several days in between, right, until next Wednesday. So I think you might get enough time to refer to the module and read the module, the relevant area of the module, and try this question as well. And the next day when I meet you, I will just talk a little bit about the phrasal level stress as well. You just go through this, right? Now this part is available in the module. So go through it. And then we can move on to intonation before we wind up the discussion. We can talk about intonation also. Right. Okay, then I'm going to close the screen today because we have several minutes more. If you want to clarify anything, if you want to ask anything, this is the time for that. Okay, don't tell me everything is a problem or kind of thing. I hope you have followed what we discussed today, right? So just quickly supplement your knowledge with the help of the module as well as some further information which you can find from websites. Okay. All right. So if you don't have any question, we can wind up.
In my case, there is nothing.
Nothing in mind. Is that what you say? Oh, no problem.
No problem.
Okay, fine. But Shara, the thing is, you need to refer to the previous stuff.
Yes, I need to get them.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, then Tarani, all right. So
Yeah,
shall
ma'am.
we? Okay, then
Yeah.
shall we stop for
Yeah.
today and we'll
Yeah,
meet in the next day? All right, then. Good night, all of you.
Good night. Thank you,
Right,
ma'am.
ma'am. Thank you very much.